Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're on my book nook, and today I am giving you a bunch of book recommendations for specifically non-Western fantasy. Now, a lot of these are going to be books that I've read, and then there are a couple that are on my TBR that I've heard good things about and that might pique your interest. So a lot of these I've also read like a while back, so you're gonna have to be patient with me when it comes to trying to remember what they're actually about. Before we get started, please consider subscribing if you like the videos that I post. Like, comment your own recs as well as any books that sound interesting to you and what you thought about them and stuff. And also check out the links down below for all my socials and all the links for the books that will come at some point. So without further ado, let's get to it. The first book I have is, when it comes to like fantasy book recs, I feel like you can't expect a video without me mentioning this book, and that is The Witch and the Tsar by Alexis Gilmore. This is, and I do want to specify, this is for non-Western fantasy books. So England, non-American, that kind of thing. So, and I don't mean non-American as in non-Indigenous American. I do have one, I believe, that's set in America, I think. I don't remember exactly, but it does have, like, gods from one of the mythologies there. But anyways, so The Witch and the Tsar is set in Russia, and we follow a young Baba Yaga, who's Yaga, and this is when, I'm so sorry for the background, I don't know what's going on downstairs. I should probably, okay, you know what, whatever. And so we follow a young Yaga as her friend, the Tsarevna Anastasia, I believe it is, comes to her in the middle of the woods, essentially. And so she has to travel to Moscow to find a cure and find what the underlying, problem is. And then we witness the rise and fall, so to speak, of Ivan the Terrible, Ivan Grozny as we'd call him. And yeah, so this one's really good. It's obviously, I do want to again reiterate, this is for non-Western European fantasies. Non-Western as in non-England, non-sort of France, I guess, non-Germany, that kind of thing, all that stuff. And who reacted? Anyways, so yes, very, very excited to tell you guys about that one. I really love this one. It was fantastic Russian representation, and I highly, highly recommend, so I can get more from this author. So yeah, the next one I have is The Judas Blossom by Stephen Aryan. Do I have the book somewhere? I have the book right here. I do also have a copy of The Witch and the Tsar, but it's too high up. So here's my copy of The Judas Blossom. I haven't finished the second book, but I do have an e-arc of the third one as well, so I'll have to binge read it. But this one is set during the Mongolian invasion of the Persian Empire, and this follows several different POVs. We have, Hulagu Khan, who's the grandson of Genghis Khan. We have Temujin, the youngest son of Hulagu Khan. We have Kokochin, who's the last of her tribe, who is married off to Hulagu, and we have Kaivan, who is a Persian general, and he basically offers his services to Hulagu to take him down from the inside. And there's like a sort of secret mystery, and there's also magic in this, and it was so good. This was so good, and I'm surprised that people haven't really, talked about this, because I feel like certain areas of like the book community would eat this shit up so fast, because there's also a Sapphic plotline. I feel like that's enough, that's all you really need to know. Put that there. So I would highly recommend this one. Again, this is set during the Mongol invasion of Persian Empire. It starts in Baghdad. The Mongol invasion of Baghdad, I believe. Don't quote me on that. It's been a minute. It's been like 2 years since I read this one, but yeah. The next one I have is Foul Days by Daevabad. I don't have a copy of Foul Days. I do have a copy of Monstrous Night. So this is a Finnish duology. This is not set in a Eastern European country specifically, but it does pull from Slavic and Bulgarian folklore and all the mythology and stuff. This follows our main girl, Kasara. I've talked about this book so many times. Almost as many times as I've talked about The Witch and the Tsar. But basically, we follow our main girl, Kasara, who lives in a walled city. It's called Chernagrad. There's monsters, and she's a witch. And the power of a witch comes from a shadow. If she loses her shadow, she will turn into a shadow, essentially. She develops a sickness and stuff. So Kasara, as she's sort of trying to get away from her ex, the Tsar of Zmei, of monsters, Zmei. And this is not an enemies to lovers, guys, by the way. This is like an abusive relationship. And she bargains away her shadow in order for safe passage to Belgrade, which is where they live without monsters. They live in a life of luxury. And she bumps into this goody two-shoes cop whose name is Asin, and then there's like a murder mystery that they have to go on, and la da da da. And this is such a slow burn. Holy hell. It's a slow burn on another level. As far as slow burns go, obviously it's not that much of a slow burn, but considering it's a duology, it is one hell of a slow burn. They don't even, like, I don't know, confess their feelings until the second book. They don't kiss until the second book. They come so close, I believe, in the first one. But they don't kiss in the first book. The next one I have is Master of Djinn. This is set in Cairo in the 1920s, I want to say, and this follows our main character, who's like the first woman inspector in the sort of department of like alchemy and all that, where they're, you know, investigating supernatural stuff. And she's also a hijabi, so she has to sort of deal with that double-edged sword, so to speak. And there's mystery, obviously. And this is set in an alternative Cairo, if Cairo had like magic and stuff and tram cars and things. I don't know. The author has 3 short novellas set in this world before the first book came out. So if you feel a little bit too intimidated in terms of world building with a Master of Djinn, which honestly, I read a Master of Djinn first, so I was perfectly fine with it. I enjoyed Master of Djinn immensely. I would recommend you read the 3 novellas because it sort of sets you up with the world and it's not as intimidating when you go into the full novel. But yeah, I've only read 1 of the 3 novellas. I read Haunting of Tramcar 15, and it mentioned Tajiks, which was kind of crazy, so I had to get like a physical copy, so I found a physical copy. Apparently at an indie bookstore. I don't remember buying it from an indie bookstore, but anyways. So there's that. Speaking of short novellas, you know, short stuff, we have Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. This isn't like specifically, it doesn't say specifically that like, oh, this is set in so-and-so country, la da da da. This is set in a world where you have giant rocks. They are a creature from Persian mythology that resembles a griffin in a sense. I'll post a picture, but that's what I essentially got from it. And then you have, I forget if it's manticores or chimeras, or even minotaurs. I feel like it's one of those 3. Minotaurs? No, it's not minotaurs. Manticores, maybe. I think. I don't remember what it was, but regardless. So we follow our main character, whose name I've forgotten because it's been a while, but we follow our main character who basically sees her family be torn to shreds by this manticore creature. We're gonna say that it's a manticore. Editing will take care of the fact if it's not, you know, a manticore. So basically she witnesses her whole family being torn to shreds. And from that day forward, she's gonna be like, oh, she's like, okay, I'm gonna train a rock and I'm going to, you know, be a rock handler and we're gonna fight the manticores because the only predator of the manticores are the rocks and they need to be trained. They've figured out how to train them. So she becomes like a rock trainer and stuff, and you sort of, it's not even that long. It's short, but just like Alex E. Harrow's Death of the Six Saints, Six Deaths of the Saint, it really packs a punch, and you can definitely see why both Fonda Lee and Alex E. Harrow are such phenomenal writers. Like, it's for a reason. They've got the skill, they've got the talent, they've got the skill, they've got the knowledge. So I don't see a lot of people talking about this one, but I really, really enjoyed it. In the same vein of Persian mythology, we have the Daevabad Trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. I'm not talking about I'm not going to talk about the adventures of Amin al-Sarafi because I haven't read it, but I have read the first Daevabad book. I have to finish the rest, but I'll finish them. But basically, Daevabad follows our main girl, Nari? Is it? Anyways, so she accidentally summons the bad guys, and then she accidentally summons a Djinn to protect her because she started chanting this one song that she remembers her childhood, and she lives in Cairo at that moment. Also 1920s Cairo, 1920s, 1930s Cairo, I think. And she summons this Djinn named Dara, and basically he's like, oh, you're, like, important. We're gonna have to get you to Daevabad, the city of brass, where you'll be safe from all these bad guys. So they go to Daevabad, and she finds out that she comes from a long line of healers, and that they're a very revered family, and la la la. Again, I've not finished the trilogy, so please no spoilers, but from what I understood, and from what I remember, I really enjoyed all the things about the story. And Dara, rest in peace, bro, rest in peace. The next one I have is the one I mentioned earlier that's like set in, I believe, America. Don't quote me on this, I don't remember because this is such a random read, totally out of my comfort zone. But this is a really popular author, I believe. It's Gods of Djinn Shadow. Is this by? I don't even remember who this is by, but I don't feel like searching it up. But this one follows, I believe, our main girl. I think she's called like Cassandra or something like that. And she basically goes on this like giant road trip or something like that. Has gods. It has some sort of prophecies. Something like that. I genuinely don't remember, but I remember enjoying it. I remember it definitely not leaning towards the white American stuff. You know, it was written by like a person of color, I believe. I want to say it's Sylvia Moreno Garcia, but I feel like it's not Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I don't remember who this was by. If it's Sylvia Moreno Garcia, I'm going to be kicking myself. But the next one I have is Sword of Kaigan by Emma Wong. I haven't read this. And the reason why I'm not recommending Blood Over Bright Haven, which I have read, is because Blood Over Bright Haven doesn't really take away from specific groups of people. There is obviously racism and colonialism and that stuff, but you don't really know specifically, like, at least I don't know specifically who is who. But in Sword of Kaigan, I believe it pulls from, I want to say Japanese, like, fantasy sort of thing. I believe it was comped as Avatar The Last Airbender or something similar. I haven't read it. But, yeah, so it sounds interesting. It sounds cool. Try it out. I did really enjoy Blood Over Bright Haven. I'm excited to read Sword of Kaigan, as I've said in, like, every single video since becoming aware of this book. But anyways, the next one I have is Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which I have read. This pulls from Chinese mythology. This follows the daughter of Chang'e, the Chinese moon goddess. And there's love and treachery and stabbing in the back, which is fitting because it is the 15th of March. So happy Caesar got stabbed day. Yeah, so I would highly recommend this one. Again, this is Chinese mythology and stuff. And the next one we have is one that I haven't read yet. I have it on my Kobo. It is a really old book, and the only way you'd be able to find a physical copy is if you go on like eBay. Not Etsy, eBay. And this is Rusalka by C.J. Cherry, I believe it is. I'll put the cover up, and this is book one of like a trilogy. I've heard good things. I've heard that it's long and a little tedious, but I do want to read it. This is like these two kids run away basically from their village, and they bump into this guy who's searching for his daughter, and his daughter ended up being a Rusalka, which is the Russian version, the Slavic version of essentially a siren or a mermaid, and they're usually young girls that have been drowned, and they come back as Rusalkas to enact revenge on those that drown them, as well as other passerbys. And yeah, and then stuff like that. And then there's 2 more books after that. And initially I wanted to read this for research purposes for my own book. I don't know if I'm gonna read it for that purpose, but yeah, so hopefully that goes well. The next one I have is The Wolf and the Whale. Now, I read this one a long time ago, so I don't remember exactly what it's about, and I also didn't finish it, but I remember really enjoying it. This follows essentially sort of two ends of the historical spectrum, I guess. This follows a young indigenous character. I believe, let's say they're Inuit maybe? A young indigenous character. I don't remember what group exactly, but yeah, I believe since it's Wales, I believe it would be Inuit or like northern, like Arctic groups. And a Viking, I believe, and they sort of come together and I guess trade and stuff, hence the wolf and the whale title. The cover is really cool. Editing Mila will add in any other discrepancies, I guess. The next one I have is Deathless. This is less so I would highly recommend The Wolf and the Whale. The next one I have is Deathless. This is less so fantasy, and more so historical fiction and fantasy, so like sort of blends the two. I'd recommend this for like if you want like an interesting take on a Russian fairy tale. This is the fairy tale of Koschei the Deathless, or the death of Koschei, or Koschei the Deathless and Maria Morovna, however you want to say it, retold in a 20th century Russia landscape, so to speak. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I read it earlier this year. I read it back in January. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. High five, like 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars. Really, really good. And yeah. The next one I have is less so a fantasy, but one I do want to mention regardless. I don't remember if it had fantasy specifically, but I do believe there might have been some prophecy elements to it. It's called The Half-Drowned King. The author's name escapes me right now, and the overall premise escapes me right now, but I believe it follows like a Norway king, like a Viking, something with Vikings, something with a character running away and from a marriage, and that character being hunted, so to speak. But I remember really enjoying it, and the funny thing about that one is my friend Alexandra, who I have a video with from a long time ago, she mentioned that I told her about the book and she started reading it, and her dad saw it and he read through the first book and went to buy the other 2 books because this is a trilogy, and he said he really enjoyed it, which is just, it's funny, you know, it's really funny. So I'd highly recommend that one. And the 4 books that I have that are more or less on my TBR is, one is Rage of Dragons by Evan Winters. I believe there's another title for the series, but it escapes me right now. This is, I believe, African mythology. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it is African mythology. Then we have The Spear That Cuts Through Water. I don't know if it's Filipino or something, but I believe it's like Southeast Asian maybe. Editing me will take care of that correction. We have Feybound, which is also, I believe, more on the African mythology side. It follows elves and like fae, but I believe there's an aspect of like African mythology or something similar. And then we have Black Leopard, Red Wolf, which I believe is also, I don't know if it's also African mythology, but it's definitely from a realm that I don't read too much often of. And that is it for this version. I do have a YA one planned once I gather the books for that. So this is the adult version. I do have a YA one planned. That's why I haven't mentioned books like Legendborn, for example. Well, that doesn't really take from... Okay, yeah. But I also haven't read Legendborn, so I would probably add that to the TBR section, so it would probably be at the end. But anyways, as usual, if you like this video, let me know down below, like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And let me know your thoughts down below, and what other books you'd recommend, and what you think about the ones that I recommended and stuff. Follow me on my socials. The book links will be down there eventually, and as well as other book videos that I mentioned, I guess, and stuff. So I will see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed this video. Follow me on all my socials, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good evening.